So my name is Susan Schwartz, and I'm the program director for Pasadena Education Network, PEN. And I have with me Nancy Dufford, who is our executive director. And we also are really happy to have with us Wendy and Natasha from College Access Plan, which is an amazing partner both of Penn and the district. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get us started. And I say that, but then I'm trying to find my actual screen that I want to share. So hold on one second. And go. There we go. All right. So let us go here. So this program is our roadmap to college, as we call it, and it's really talking about a roadmap that will get you and your student through high school with options to attend college at the end. So our agenda is pretty packed. So we're going to try to keep it fairly crisp and move through the material that we have. And what I will assure you is that a lot of the information that we are mentioning is included in the material that you either got already in an email this afternoon or will get as a follow-up email. So you don't have to take screenshots and write everything down or try to find all the links that we mentioned. We will share those with you afterwards. And so if you are here and you did not sign up for this program already on our website, if you could just at some point drop your email into the chat, that will allow us to make sure you get those materials. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to start with a kind of a framework to help you think about what it takes to graduate with college options. And there are kind of two pieces to that. The first is what we call the scholar profile framework. And then we'll get into a little bit more detail about what requirements are necessary for graduating with college options. And then we're going to, in the second part of our program, we're going to really go year by year, 9th grade, 10th grade, and so on, with some of the kinds of information that your student will be getting from counselors in those years, some of the kinds of opportunities and resources that you will have to take advantage of, and some other tips. And then we'll give the College Access Plan a chance at the end to give a little bit more detailed information about all the amazing services and resources that they offer. So I think just to start out, this is a team effort. There are a lot of resources available to our students. So probably as a parent, the most important thing is to be encouraging your student to advocate for him or herself, to seek out resources. And our hope is that by making you aware of some of the resources that are available, if your student is needing help or some support, you can help to sort of prompt them as to what sorts of resources are available to them. And there's no one right way to do it, right? There's not one right path through high school to college. There's no one outcome that is exactly the right thing for every student. So it's going to look a little different for everybody. That is okay. And yeah, Wendy, go ahead.
Thank you, Susan. And I can't agree anymore. It really does vary from one child to another. And so exploring and starting early is kind of key so that you can kind of see with the student that you're currently working on what his or her path will be. We're really lucky that in our very own backyard, we have so many different options with regards to college fairs where students and families are invited to come completely free. Starting with our district college fair that happens in the fall. Students, I mean, we even encourage our middle school students to come and look because it's kind of a great experience to walk into the convention center and you see like a few hundred colleges and universities and you just hear them and feel the buzz and the energy. And so this, I think, is a really eye-opening experience for students to see, hey, those 5 or 10 colleges or universities that I've heard of, there's actually thousands of them. And to be able to see at least a few hundred all in one space is always a really great experience. There's also something that started not too long ago is the CSU College Night that typically happens in the fall as well. So you can see they've already scheduled their fall one. So you can mark your calendars, September 24. It's from 6 to 8, also free. So you get to see a college fair of just all the 23 Cal States. It's a great opportunity to kind of meet one-on-one with a representative. There's also the WACAC and the NACAC college fairs that we have, and those, they've done even a virtual component to it. So if you can't make it to an in-person one, you can also join in virtually. So we're just showing these images so for you to know that in a year, you'll have some in the fall and you'll have some options in the spring. The important thing is take advantage of those opportunities. And as students are looking at those opportunities when they attend a college fair, they kind of start like, oh, okay, so in California, we have these 4 different types of colleges and universities that are kind of divided into systems. We have our 116 California community colleges. Most of you have already heard of Pasadena City College or PCC. Our 23 Cal States. And again, we're so lucky to live in Southern California because we have so many that we can drive to in just within an hour's drive, right? Or less. We have Cal Poly Pomona, Northridge, Cal State LA. And so your students are able to go and visit.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. We have our 9 UC campuses, UC Riverside, UCLA, and Irvine are our closest Southern California ones, and our privates. So this just kind of gives a really quick overview of some of the minimum requirements and what it takes to apply to the different systems. So if a student's like, you know, I really want to go to, I heard about UC San Diego and I really want to go there, this just kind of helps give, okay, the minimum GPA is a 3.0, but obviously we want to shoot for way higher than that if you want to have those options. And we'll talk about different resources that you can later on view along with your student to see if you do want to go to those really competitive schools, what they can be doing right now to set themselves up for that success. Some applications are going to look at student context, others are not. So you see that the UCs and the privates, some Cal States now do since the pandemic. But one thing we will focus on today is those activities and awards lists, which we often call the scholar profile or the brag sheet. So we'll talk about how to make that a very good, well-crafted document that can help your student in many, many ways throughout their years in high school. Some of them are going to want to have your student answer questions about themselves. So the UCs call those personal insight questions, and for private colleges, they call them essays. And for some, they'll want recommendations. So again, this is just kind of a quick overview so you can kind of have that discussion with your student once you visit those college fairs.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that scholar profile and what does that mean? We'll get in a minute to sort of what are the specific requirements that your student needs to meet to be eligible and competitive for admissions. But this idea of the scholar profile is really about how to be, it's a holistic idea to how to become a well-rounded college applicant, no matter where you're applying. And so, you know, your student is not just a list of course credits and grades and test scores. They have skills, they have talents, they have passions, they have activities and areas of interest, different kinds of lived experience, and character attributes, and all of this together sort of makes up the scholar profile. And the reason this matters is that colleges are going to be looking at other aspects of your student besides the sort of bare minimum requirements for those that they need to be eligible. They want to know who the student is and how they're going to contribute to the college and campus community. So work experience, extracurricular activities, any awards or honors or special curricular things that they're doing, and work experience, also life experience. I mean, if they are caring for a family member, if they are doing, you know, if they're working a job just to help sort of support the family, I mean, all of these things are part of who they are. And it's important to sort of be looking, even as you start through high school, before you start worrying about doing the actual applications, start thinking about who are you as a whole person, your student. And I want to just say that well-rounded does not mean that somebody is trying to do all of the things. Nobody should try to do all of the things. It's not healthy for most people. Um, so you want to pursue what you're interested in. I'm saying your student, and what you want to learn more about through things besides just the academic coursework, through community service or activities, through volunteering, through getting involved with clubs or activities at school. But it doesn't mean that they should be trying to do everything. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think the main thing is that, you know, high school is still a time when your student is really exploring and trying to figure out what they're interested in and try new things and say, yeah, maybe not, or maybe yes, and then pursue them. And so all of that is part of kind of really starting to tell a story about who they are that's going to be helpful to them as they go to applying for colleges.
Thank you, Susan. And I think another thing, as your student is starting to accomplish and get involved in different things, you really want to help organize all of those experiences, those thoughts, those nominations, those awards and recognitions. And so even if you just start a binder and have some protector sheets so that you can start, you know, putting all those great certificates and awards all in one place. So when your student is ready to start their brag sheet, they don't have to, Mom, do you remember, Dad, what was that thing back in like 3 years ago? We remember? And it's like, oh, what is that, right? So, you know, having a nice organized binder with just all of the stuff in chronological order will help. You can also take digital copies of the certificate so that you can have them in case the physical copies end up disappearing. Hopefully they don't. But the brag sheet really does have a wide range of uses, and it's not just all until you get to your senior year. It really is anytime before. So if your student is applying to some kind of pre-college program, a summer opportunity, they can use that scholar profile or that brag sheet just to show what it is that they have done so far. We do this with our middle school students. If they've done our CAP middle school program, they get to write that in and they get to see, oh, okay, that's how I do it. But this essentially is going to mimic and help support their UC and their private college applications, because they'll be able to have an organized way of, oh, I participated in this activity for 4 years, for 3 years. And a well-crafted one is really going to highlight what the student has done outside of the classroom. And so here's just a really quick example of one opportunity that the student is highlighting. So they're mentioning about varsity marching band, and they've participated so they can see that they've done it all 4 years of high school. They're mentioning that their leadership position is a section leader, and they're really specific about how much time they've dedicated. So you want to, you know, show how often you've engaged in the opportunity or activity, the number of years you've been involved, if you've been responsible for, let's say, teaching music to my section, and that involved 15 or 20 new students every semester. If they've been recognized to have any positions of leadership. And again, you want to be specific, but also concise.
I'm going to just pause for 1 second. If there's anything really pressing or that we've lost you on something that you're confused about, I just want to give people a chance if there were any questions. I'm just looking back at the chat, and it looks like there was a question about what WACAC and NACAC stand for. Do you want to?
That's the Western Association of College Admission Counselors, and the NACAC is just the national version. I remember when I first learned about it as a senior in college, I was like, WACAC, what is that? But they provide a wide range of services, including doing professional conferences for counselors throughout, also for university reps. So high school counselors, college counselors.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy. So we're going to shift gears a little bit now and go back to those course credits and what it takes to graduate with college options in terms of courses and grades, the academic requirements. So to start, let's look at what it takes to graduate from PUSD. So, and this information again is something that we have, the slide may be a little bit hard to read the graphic, but we have links in that we're going to be sharing with you that give you all the details. But it's basically 220 credits of required coursework, and that's one semester, one course, one semester is generally 5 credits. So that gives you an idea. And then 40 hours of community service or work-based learning, so internships or things of that nature. And that can start with up to 10 hours from the summer before 9th grade. And then there's something called the graduate portfolio in senior defense. And that's something that students work on through high school. They begin to compile a portfolio of samples of their coursework from their high school years. And they get some guidance on this from their teachers and counselors. But it will include some manner of research project or independent creative project. And the idea is that they can show kind of their trajectory through high school. They can look at what they've learned, how they've grown as a student and a person, and kind of what that points to in their future. And they do a presentation as a senior before a panel of teachers, administrators, community members, and civic leaders. And this happens in their senior year. So that is another part of the PUSD graduation requirement. So there's a list here of all the different, how many math courses, how many credits of English and science and so on that goes along with PUSD graduation. But then there's another set of requirements that you need to be looking at in terms of college eligibility. So I'll turn that over to Wendy.
Thank you, Susan. So aside from graduating from high school, right, because that is part of the college requirements, there are the A through G classes that students have to take throughout their 4 years of high school. One big difference between the district, what they consider a passing grade, and what the A through Gs need in order to satisfy is a C or above. So I know sometimes students will hear, well, you need at least a D to pass, but for A through Gs, it really is a C. We tell middle school students, D's are for do-overs, and that's the same thing for high schoolers. So hopefully your student is not in that situation, but we'll also talk about how to support your student for success. So again, A through Gs are the classes students will take throughout their 4 years of high school. And if you notice, it's a little difficult to read, but A stands for history. It's 2 years required. Typically, your students will graduate with 3 years. English, it's the same. You graduate with 4 years. A through G requires 4 years as well. For math, you'll see that it's 3 years required. However, colleges and universities really, really want students to try to get that 4th year in. Math is one of those subjects that if you don't use, you lose. So they really do try to encourage students to complete those 4 years. Lab science, it's 2 years required, 3 recommended. Again, if your student is looking into a career that might require heavy science, we recommend that they fully exhaust the opportunities available to them at their high school. For the language other than English, something to keep in mind, 2 years required, 3 recommended. It does have to be 2 years of the same language. So you can't do French 1 and Spanish 1 and say, I have 2 years. It has to be at least the 2nd year. And just sort of a pro tip, if your student is bilingual in another language, talk to your counselor and see if there's a way to have them go to an advanced class if they're at that level, to make sure that they're, at the level and that they're advancing. Visual and performing arts and college electives. I want to point down at the bottom, the A through G course list is something that every high school in California that's accredited has. And so when you click on, you're going to get a copy of this presentation. And when you click on that link, you'll also get it in the document on the side. You can type in your high school and it will show all of the A through G classes available at your specific high school. You'll also note that on the left-hand side, there'll be a little star. If there is, those are the classes that give students an extra honors point. So aside from taking the right classes, we want them to get those grades, right? The grades are so important. We tell students that grades are like the adult version of your credit score. This is what shows colleges that you're responsible, you're following through, you're completing your projects. And so we try to aim and encourage students to get as many A's and B's as possible. Of course, C's is still considered passing, but we teach our middle school students how to calculate their GPA so they can see, ooh, that C really is going to bring down my GPA and I don't want that. So what do I need to do to bump it up to that B? Or maybe the student has that B plus, and just kind of giving them the extra oomph to like, I can make that a 4 point and I can make that an A. So again, encouraging students that grades always matter, right? Even if your student, we didn't ask this at the beginning and I wish that we had, just to see who's on the call. Do we have more 8th grade parents, 9th grade parents? So if you can put that in the chat, we would love to kind of gauge to see who's in the audience with us. But again, the higher the GPA, the more competitive your student is going to be. Okay, Stacy, thank you. I see that you put 9th grade. So this is the perfect opportunity to really encourage those habits for your student. We got an 8th and a 10th grader. Thank you, Jennifer.
Should I go to the next slide?
Oh yeah, please, thank you. And next we have, aside from taking the A through G classes, getting good grades, and then also encouraging your students to take advantage of adding rigor to that curriculum. So if there are particular subjects that they're passionate about, that they excel in, we encourage them to look into the right side are the options, whether they take an honors class, an AP class. If your student goes to Blair, they have the IB program, or taking a class through a community college like PCC. This is really going to help with their transition from high school into college, because that added level of rigor is going to slowly work its way up so that when they get to their 12th grade and then they finally start freshman year, reading a book in a week is not going to be a big deal. Writing multiple essays in a week is not going to be a huge deal, right? Because they've already practiced doing that. So that really just helps with the ease of that transition. With the college courses that students can take within PUSD, it can either be done through dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment. So it just depends on the high school that you attend. Essentially, for the concurrent enrollment, these are PCC classes, for instance, that a student can take either after school or during the summer that can help earn them college credits if they're transferable. And that little assist logo at the bottom is a little tool that you can use to enter in the class that your student might be interested in attending to see if it's transferable to a UC, a CSU, or both. And then you also have the option, if your high school offers a dual enrollment, this is when students get to take college classes as part of their regular instructional time. So this is something that's offered at select schools, and it can kind of double count for your high school diploma as well as college credits. One thing to note about that is that it does become a part of your college transcript. So we do want to encourage students to make sure that they're doing a load that's going to be well balanced for them and that they'll be able to be successful. I'm going to pass it back on to you, Susan.
Okay. So, oops, I'm sorry, I'm blocking the screen here. So the other thing just that we want to mention here, and we're not going to take time right here to go into a lot of detail, but there are what's called college and career academies that are available to students as an option at all of the high schools, and they're different programs, different industry areas represented at the different high schools. So there's a link again that we will share with y'all that gives you a little bit more detail about those. If you're already in high school or just starting out, you may have already made those decisions. It is possible to make a switch or to go into something like that, I think in 10th grade, but beyond a certain point, you're either doing that program or you're not, because there are certain courses that you take along the way. So the advantage of these career academies is they give kids an opportunity to really be exposed to a broad field of types of careers that they might be interested in, and sort of see how what they're learning in school is applicable out in the world. There are also internship opportunities that go along with that. So it's, they're definitely, this is one of the ways in which your student, if they are in a college or career academy, have an opportunity to sort of distinguish themselves. It becomes part of their scholar profile. So now we're gonna switch gears and actually get into our year-by-year roadmaps. So I will just let's just kind of do an overview of the territory here. Our incoming ninth graders are already meeting or have met with a high school counselor for the first time. They're this is just kind of the big picture, and we'll go year by year and kind of go into the details. But we do want to emphasize that your student should meet with a counselor every year, individually. The counselors will be providing certain services and programs and informational sessions for students. And they have like kind of a curriculum that they follow, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And that grades matter every year. So we're going to repeat that a few times, right, Wendy?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's this myth, right, that grades don't really count in middle school. They start counting in ninth grade, and then they get to ninth grade, and they're like, well, no, they don't really start counting in ninth grade. They start counting in 10th grade. And the reality is that colleges are going to get the high school transcript, and it's going to show all 4 years of high school. So, yes.
All right. So let's zoom in and look at ninth grade to start with. So it's an exciting time. It's a time of transition. Your child is adjusting to a new school in many cases, making new friends, becoming more independent. It's not unusual for kids to struggle a little academically at the beginning of high school, and that's, I think it's good to just know that, so that you're not you don't want to freak out. On the other hand, you do want to be paying attention and sort of staying on top of what's going on, and encouraging your student to advocate for him or herself, but also just kind of, as a parent, knowing what's going on so that you can help to keep things either on track or get things back on track if they go off track. So we've listed here some of the kinds of counselor initiated activities. They'll be reviewing the student's transcript, talking about the graduation requirements and what A through G courses, the stuff that Wendy just went over. They're going to start creating a 4-year plan with your student. And just that's starting to think already about what are some of the goals that you have. Are you hoping to go to a 4-year college? Are you planning, so that as they're scheduling courses and thinking about how all the pieces fit together, that's going to fit into that plan. So starting to think about what happens after high school. There may be an introduction to the PSAT, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Already, if there are gaps in the student's academics that need to be filled, that's something that the counselors will be beginning to look at that point. And just generally helping students transition and make adjustments to high school.
So there's a lot of resources, and I did see in the chat that we have a lot of younger students. So I really, really appreciate that, because this means that you're getting the information early and on time to kind of make a decision and a game plan. Because really, going to college and your plans after high school is really about creating that strategy plan. And so some opportunities and support programs. We're really lucky in PUSD. We really have a plethora of different resources. And we'll talk about College Access Plan, known as CAP, which we offer a wide range of free college resources to students and families. And we'll go into a little more detail on how your student can take advantage of that for middle schoolers as well as high schoolers. And we talk to students about anything related to college, their plans after high school, maybe even applying to an internship or a job during high school. We can help with that process. But then we also have other programs like the Upward Bound program and TRIO program that's available as part of PCC. And there's another one that has from Cal State LA. There's also the UCLA VIPS program, which is for highly academically motivated students. There's the UCLA Early Academic Outreach Program that's also designed to help students from disadvantaged backgrounds that attend PUSD prepare early on and know what their options are so that they can, again, also have that strategy plan. It's really important, like Susan said, checking in with your counselors. And I know as parents, you guys get so many emails, but honestly, like if you can make it a habit and a tradition, you know, take 5 minutes a week, 5 or 10, and sit down with your student and take turns reading the information. So that you can both kind of share on like, oh, that's an interesting, wait, what did you say about that one? Right. And if you can take turns, your student can get accustomed to also reading information and seeing like, oh, what do we want to participate in? Oh, that sounds like an interesting opportunity. Let's sign up for that. So I would encourage, you know, I know as students get older, and especially for parents who have more than one child, you're getting bombarded with emails, but try to make this sort of like a opportunity for you to connect with your student and kind of find out about information and make them read half of that information to you. That might help.
I would just second that you know, I think a lot of times kids get into high school and they haven't, that's a great time to really instill the practice of, if not reading all your email, at least looking to see what's in your inbox and reading and, you know, checking to see if there's something you need to know and reading it. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah. And finally, a lot of the schools are having their wellness programs and centers that students can take advantage of. So if I would find out from your school what they are and make sure that your student knows them. We all have had our bad days, right? Or tough days. And sometimes students just need an opportunity to go and disconnect and connect with someone. Please take advantage of that, because the district and the schools are investing in those opportunities and having professionals as well. We know that pandemic was really difficult on a lot of students and families. So please, please, please. And also connect with your school's community assistant. They're also a plethora of resources. If you missed those emails, you know, go and say hi to them. You might be surprised at the information and resources they can share. So some pro tips, you know, establishing just, again, some routines and some habits with your students. And if you can help model those habits for them, like reading those emails and taking turns, you know, sharing with them that sometimes you as an adult also struggle with some things, right? Like you had a bad day at work or a hard day with whatever, so that students can understand, hey, I have an opportunity to share with my parent that I had a bad day, or that, you know, this class is being a lot more challenging than I expected it to be, or I'm having a difficult time concentrating. Having those open lines of communication is really important between you and your student, and letting them know that if they got an F or a D, and hopefully they don't, but if it happens, right? To let them know this is not going to define who they are as a scholar, as a student, or as your child. So one of the things and great resources that I think sometimes gets underlooked is the Aries parent portal. So how many of you have access to that? If you want to give a thumbs up, or if you don't want to out yourself, that's fine. But you can go to your community assistant and they can help connect you. We all know that phones break on us after a while, and next thing you know, like, oh, I got a new phone and now I don't remember my password. Get connected to that Aries parent portal. Were you going to say something, Susan?
No, I'm just just nodding in agreement. Yeah.
But the Aries portal is really meant to help support, you know, see where your student is at. Are they falling behind on something where the student's like, well, I don't know why I have that D. And it's like, well, when we go into the Aries and check, they're like, oh, it's 5 missing assignments, or, oh, I missed that test, or, oh, sometimes it could be that the student turned in the work and it hasn't gotten graded, right? And so then just double checking in with the teacher. So again, just it's a way for a tool for students and parents to kind of check in to make sure that everything's on track. If your student does have a hiccup, we do have the A through G counselors that can help your student sort of, you know, define this is where we're at. Maybe you have a deficiency, maybe you got that D that you need to do over in that A through G, and they can decipher if it's best for you to do it during summer school, twilight school, or what the options may be for you. And really, take advantage of those summers that you have in between 9th and 10th grade, because there are great opportunities to explore, whether it's through our summer programming that we offer in collaboration with the district or other exterior opportunities. Know that setting up your student for success early is really, really important.
And this is just a picture to give you what you can see on that Aries. In particular, what we're looking at here is how this student is doing so far in terms of meeting their UC college eligibility requirements. So they can sort of see where his classes line up with the A through G requirements that are there. But there are also tabs at the top to see how are you doing towards high school graduation. What about the CSUs? So this is just one of the many uses that the Aries Parent Portal has in terms of helping, being a tool for you to be able to just look and see at a glance, and your student, to see kind of where things stand in terms of their goals.
And if I could just say, set those phone alarms for like before the end of the first quarter, the second quarter, just to do that check-in, because really what you want to make sure that your student is set for is that final grade, right? They can have a hiccup during a quarter, but as long as they're going to be on track to pass that class and hopefully with a stronger grade with an A or B, that's really, really important.
Okay, so moving on to 10th grade. I told you we were going to put grades on every slide. So you want to encourage, we mentioned this before, you want to encourage your student to challenge themselves, to take challenging courses, particularly in the areas of strength and interest that they have. So again, it's not that your student should take every AP that your high school offers, but rather that if they're really pursuing the sciences, or they're really, interested in English language arts, that's where their strength is. That's where they should be especially looking to challenge themselves. So counselor initiated activities in 10th grade include beginning career exploration, looking at how the student is doing in terms of college readiness, the college fairs. Again, these are not things that you can only do at this time. It's just that this is sort of on the counselor's radar to make sure it's being introduced. And then it mentioned the PSAT. This is something that is available to students to try taking in 10th grade. And Wendy, did you want to say a little bit about that?
Sorry, it cut off for a second. Can you repeat the last part?
Oh, sorry. The PSAT, the optional opportunity.
So high schools are still offering the opportunity for UCs and Cal States. The current decision has been made to not require it as part of the admissions, which was previously pre-pandemic a requirement to take the PSAT, the SAT or ACT. The PSAT was like the practice version of that. But if students who are great test takers and want to be considered, let's say, for the National Merit Scholar, they do encourage students to continue to explore the PSATs to practice, because when they take it in the 11th grade, that's when they would be qualifying for the National Merit Scholar. Also check with private colleges, especially if you're looking for privates or out-of-state private or publics, to see what they're where they're landing on with regards to standardized testing. But this is a practice version of it. So if your student is considering those elite schools that are now going back to requiring it, then this would be a great opportunity for them to take advantage of.
Thanks. Okay.
Great. So more resources for you to take advantage of. There's the California Guidance Initiative, which we either know as californiacolleges.edu or CCGI. It's an online platform that our students have access to. So your student, if they did our program, they likely activated their CCGI account with us during middle school. So they can start in middle school. They simply go onto the website, they enter their information, their student ID and their PUSD ID, and then they initiate their profile. And then you as a parent can go in, create your account, link your account to any student that you have in the district that's either a middle schooler or a high schooler. And you can also track, similar to the parent portal, their A through G sort of like progress to see if they have any deficiencies, if they're, what are the areas that they've gone above and beyond. It's also a great resource that we use with our middle schoolers and high schoolers when they think, oh, I want to go to Stanford because they've heard of it. We're like, okay, let's go look at their profile and their admissions acceptance rate. Oh, look, okay, so RC is going to be good enough? No, right? And so this actually is sometimes a good motivator for students because it's like, oh, I need to put my act together and I need to get better grades. And oftentimes when we talk to students, it's not that they can't do better, it's just that they're missing little like deadlines that make the difference between getting an A and a C, right? They've done the work. They're like, well, I did the work, I just forgot to turn it in. What? You did the hardest part, right? And so again, healthy habits. There's the College Board as well. They have a great resource that you can work along with your student with their big futures. I mean, honestly, they have a timeline from 9th through 12th grade, what you could be doing with some action plans. And if you create the account together, I mean, honestly, I'd have a notebook and start writing down all the username and the passwords or email them to yourself so that you always have access to your student profiles as well as the parent profiles.
And again, just a reminder, we will be sending out the links and the list of all these resources separately afterwards. So don't worry if you're feeling like we're giving you a lot here.
Thank you, Susan. So as we're looking at some pro tips, again, Susan wasn't lying when we said we were going to reiterate that grades really do matter. There are some nuances in how universities and colleges calculate the GPA. So for UCs and Cal States, they begin calculating the A through G classes starting the summer after 9th grade. And they use your A through G classes all the way up until the summer before 12th grade. The reason is you apply in the fall, right, when you're still in the middle of the semester, so you don't have those grades yet. So when you're calculating your UC and your Cal State GPA, that's when they start counting. If your student is looking at privates, many of them use the 9th through 11th grade, right, when you're first applying. So they will incorporate those 9th grade grades. So it is important to do the best that you can as soon as you hit high school. Again, taking that rigor. So if your student, was having a hard time transitioning to 9th grade and maybe didn't take an honors or an AP class, this may be the opportunity then to kind of revisit and see what were the areas that you're really passionate about. Where did you feel it was a little too easy and you could have been, pushed a little bit more, so that your student is again working towards those mental muscles to have an easier transition for college. And then every student is so different. Some of them are really like sports motivated and that's all they want to do, and that's fine. But if your student's not into sports, sometimes they think, well, I don't have any interest. Of course you do. What do you love to do, right? There's clubs. Your high schools offer a wide range of clubs. Your students can get involved in community centers, volunteer opportunities, especially if your student goes to like Blair and Marshall, for example. If they're in high school, like if they're a 9th grader, they can reach out to their middle school teachers and offer to volunteer to either tutor or to be some form of volunteer in their middle school grade level teachers. So look for opportunities that fit for your student. And again, take advantage of those summers. There's so many different opportunities available. All these experiences are important, not just to keep your student busy, but these are the experiences that your student will be able to pull and draw from when they're writing those great letters, those great essays, and answering those questions, those personal insight questions for their college applications.
Okay, so moving on to 11th grade. Junior year is it's a turning point. This is when the academic and the college application and planning activities really get into high gear. So there is a certain amount of stress and anxiety that can go with that. You want to but I think part of the message is that if you've been kind of beginning to think about these things and sort of getting yourselves organized before that, it won't be as stressful. But the counselors are going to, if a student hasn't already created a CCGI account, they'll be having them create that. They'll start completing inventories of their resources they need and interests. The parents can track and monitor that progress as well. Starting to look at college lists, think about, what colleges might align with particular career areas of interest. Wendy mentioned about the PSAT. If you have a strong test taking kid, I had one who was and one who wasn't, but this is a time when somebody who is particularly has strength in that area may be taking the PSAT and seeing if they qualify for a National Merit Scholarship. Likewise, the SAT and ACT tests would begin to be offered. They would be starting to take those in the spring. And again, that kind of depends on where your student is looking to apply and whether they would require that or not. The brag sheet that Wendy mentioned way back in the beginning, this is something that the counselors will introduce with the 11th graders. But again, because you're here tonight and you're learning all this stuff, your student will already have started to pull some of that material together. And this is going to be, as Wendy pointed out earlier, has a lot of uses, but it's among other things, it's something that is going to be really helpful for counselors and teachers who your student will ask to write letters of recommendation for them.
I can definitely attest to that. When I've written a letter of recommendation for a student who hands me a scholar profile or a brag sheet, I can assure you the amount of specifics I can go into and things that I didn't even know about the student allows me to really be specific and write a strong letter of recommendation. And when you're on a scholarship committee or admissions committee, you can definitely tell the difference when a teacher really knows or the counselor really knows that student. So next on this slide is the CCGI that we were mentioning. So you can go in, take advantage, it's free. All you need to do is make sure your student has activated their account so that way you can link your account to theirs. They have a wide range of surveys that students can take to see about potential majors, potential professions, keep track of that A through G, amongst other things. And when they become seniors, the students ideally are going to launch their college applications from CCGI. This allows for the counselors to be able to track in the back, oh, this student started these university applications but have not submitted them. Make sure that you follow through with that. CAP is around 9th through 12th grade, so you're seeing them in every opportunity, but we will talk about specific opportunities in just a second on that. But some more programs for summer, when a student has to apply and compete for a position, that's something that they can write on their scholar profile, even if they didn't get to participate in the program because they were selected. And we've just listed a small amount of programs. If your student's really into math and science, there's the UC Cosmos program. There is a cost. There are scholarships, but it's not free, so there is a fee. Davis, Irvine, Santa Cruz offer these, and I believe Davis, Irvine, UC Santa Cruz. I think 3 or 4 campuses offer this math and science combo. They get to take the classes at the UCs with UC professors, so it's an amazing experience for the student who's into that. There's also some pre-college programs offered through UCLA. Caltech and PCC also offer summer programming right in our backyard. We're so lucky to have them. So look to see what might be of interest for your student. And also we're linking in here USD's College and Career Academies. So for some students who are in academies, there may be internship opportunities that students take advantage of this summer after their junior year. So make sure that the earlier you have that action plan of things like your summers planned accordingly. And if you're going out of town and visiting out of state for family, make sure you visit some out-of-state colleges because you've already paid for the expensive trip to fly somewhere else. So have your student kind of take a peek at some other colleges there.
This is just kind of reiterating a few points that we've made before. One suggestion was that when you have your child make a College Board account, to use a non-PUSD email and share that information with you, just so that you can actually access it and be able to see that. You can create a parent account in the case of the CCGI platform, so you can be able to see what your student has got going on there. And again, try to don't get caught up, or try to dissuade your child from getting caught up and feeling like they have to do all the things. It is really about kind of discovering their passions, their strengths, their interests, and it's better to get involved with just a couple of clubs or activities and grow that involvement and leadership in those areas than it is to join half a dozen different clubs and just kind of show up to a meeting at lunchtime every week. So I think, the example that Wendy showed earlier on with the marching band, where you're doing something over a period of time and you grow in the kinds of responsibilities you have and leadership opportunities that you have. That's a more valuable kind of involvement than trying to spread yourself really thin. And again, similar with something like the AP classes or any other extra rigorous classes, focus on the areas of strength and interest for that. And then, we talked about internships and jobs and volunteer positions and service positions and things like that. So ideally, you want to have some things where a third party, somebody outside the family, can attest to the hours that your student has put in. But if your student is playing an important role at home in some capacity with younger siblings or relatives or anything else, earning to help support the family, that is also completely valid, part of their lived experience. And so 12th grade, that's when the college applications are actually occurring. It's in the fall for the UCs and the Cal States. You don't want to have your student asking for letters of recommendation at the last minute. Obviously, counselors and teachers are going to be trying to accommodate multiple students. So having that brag sheet and having, thinking about who your student might want to ask earlier on is a good idea. Financial aid applications and understanding sort of some financial literacy kinds of activities, understanding the difference between loans versus scholarships or grants. These are things that the counselors will cover. CAP also has workshops for families as well as students. And then, just sort of that final check on the 4-year plan, the graduation requirement and the A through G check is something the counselor will be doing with the students at that point.
So again, college access plan will be there during your senior year and prior years as well. So we have a couple of slides where we'll go into the specifics of how we support students. But again, we want to bring that attention to the College Board Big Futures. You can start looking at that now, even though we have a 7th and 8th grader, look at what 9th grade is, right? And so there's the 9th through 12th grade. Make sure that you have that 12th grade plan a year before, just so that you're not overwhelmed and you can plan that, semester by semester accordingly. And there's really going to be a lot of work, a lot of stuff that's going to be happening senior year, and hopefully your student will have an opportunity to enjoy some of it. So the heavier lift that they do 9th through 11th to kind of unload a little bit during their senior year, this will actually help make the 12th grade a lot more enjoyable, so that they can actually, savor that moment of being the big fish in the sea. And yeah, because it happens. I mean, we're seeing it right now with our own team member who has a senior, right? And all the hard work they did 9th through 11th, and how that's really paying off for the student's senior year.
So we're going to wrap our presentation up, and it looks like we will have some time for questions, and that's great. But we've mentioned college access plans several times, and you've been hearing how knowledgeable Wendy is. We also have Natasha, who is, I think, still uh, on the Zoom with us. And so they're going to kind of review a little bit what services are available through CAP. Their focus is on preparing underserved students to succeed in college, but their services are available to all PUSD students. So Wendy or Natasha, take it away.
Yeah, so as mentioned, free college resources for students starting in 6th through 12th grade, and we also have an iHeart College program. But the one thing that makes us unique to other pre-college programs for students is that everyone in PUSD is welcome. We don't have a requirement, so whether you're a 2.0 student or a 4.5 student, if you're a first-gen student or not, whether you're low income or not, we welcome all students, including Dreamers and AB 540 students. So please take advantage of that resource. And as mentioned, we have the 4 different departments. I know we have some middle school parents on the line, and we're so happy to share about the middle school opportunity. For this line, I'm going to focus on family engagement. So at the beginning of the school year, we typically have our family welcomes, and we'll do that virtually as well as in person. We've been calling them the Do Not Fear, CAP is here. So come stop by for some donuts and coffee at the beginning of the school year, find out what the drop-in space looks like for your high school student, and learn about the programs. We do some Saturday talks, which are casual conversations around college workshops, and they are geared towards first-gen families, but everyone is welcome. We do them in English and Spanish. We just finished our spring webinar, but we do a fall affording college and spring understanding financial aid offers. Typically targeting the senior parents and students as they make those tough final decisions of like, I got into all these great schools and like, which one is going to be the best fit financially as well. And then you'll also see Natasha and myself at school sites or district meetings like AAPC, PTCA, PTSA, ELAC, DLAC, and Foster Youth Council. We do transition workshops and community partner collaborations like tonight.
And we're so glad you do.
Ditto. Our middle school program, so we have some middle schoolers on the call every fall and spring. We do 3 schools in the fall, 3 in the spring. It's a free 9-week program. We throw candy at the students, which they love. But in the process of that, we're really talking to them about how to prepare for high school success, explore different colleges and careers. They practice how to calculate their own GPA, how to research scholarship opportunities so that they really go into high school knowing that they can go to any college, even if it costs $90,000, because they have the tools needed to be able to access those scholarship opportunities. So look out for that in the fall. And then we've mentioned about the programs that we have at the high school level. So different from the middle school, high school is there year round, with the exception of maybe the first 2 weeks of the semester and the 2 weeks prior to the semester ending just because of finals. But our CAP advisors are there twice a week for 2 hours, and we can help with anything from college lists. Maybe your student doesn't know. Let's get a list going of your safety, your target, your reach schools, exploring scholarships, financial aid, internships, fly-in programs for juniors where they pay for your colleges will pay for your student to fly to another state to go visit campuses. We help with all that as well. So Cynthia's at CIS, MIR, and PHS, and my colleague Carla's at Blair, Marshall, and Rose City. We also now have some enrolled courses. So in the fall, you'll see the college essays workshop. And this is where we help students with their college essays. They come up with 3 different essays they want to work on, whether it's the EOP one, a personal insight question, or something from the common application. They'll get some peer and CAP advisor feedback. It is free. It is a 5-week program, twice a week. Once a week for 2 hours for 5 weeks. And although it's targeting seniors, I encourage juniors to also apply because if space is available, they do accommodate them, and oftentimes there is space. So please, please, please put that on your calendar. They also have a College 101 for juniors. Again, this one is targeting juniors, but we invite sophomores to apply if there's space. This is where we talk to them about the different types of colleges and universities and a timeline so that they have that strategy and action plan. And it's meant really to complement the work that the counselors are doing so that students are getting that ongoing support and have a place to come and work on that scholar profile or that, scholarship opportunity.
Right.
And finally, this is where you'll see our CAP advisor. So we do a Monday, Wednesday schedule and a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. So the locations from 3:30 to 5:30. I know sometimes the days may not work with your student at that school. You can go to one of the other schools and go to drop in as well. So you can feel free to reach out to me if we can help coordinate that.
All right. Well, we have time for questions, but first I want to just thank you for being here, and I want to ask you to take a few minutes when we're done, or right now, if you like, to give us your feedback with this very, very short survey. So I think I will leave this up here for a moment, but I am going to, let me just open up my grid here and let's see who's on the call still. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. Let's see, I'm going to do this here. And let's see. Okay. Trying to move my screen around so that I don't have things in front of other things. There we go. So questions. Okay. Are there forms or standard ways to get verification for volunteer hours? I believe the answer to that is yes, but Natasha, you look like you're ready to jump in.
Yeah, so the majority of the questions that were in the chat, I did throughout the presentation answer them so that families and everyone kind of knew the answer. But there is a standard where you would turn in your volunteer form to your counselor. Sometimes you may get a volunteer form, whether it's because you did community service somewhere or because you are, volunteering at a tutoring with students and things of that nature. So each school is a little different. Some have their own forms. Some allow you to turn in the forms from the agencies, but you would just turn it into your counselor and they would keep track of that for you.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody again.
There was also a
yeah.
question earlier with regards to AP classes and PCC courses or dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment. And so basically the answer to that is in like, what's more important, what holds more weight, things of that nature. So AP classes, which are advanced placement classes, are classes that you take within a school day. You take those classes, and by taking those classes, you're showing that you can do rigor. So whether it would be an AP class or an honors class, those AP classes, you typically have to take an AP exam. That always happens in May for all students that take AP classes. And you need to pass the AP exam with at least a 4 or 5 in order to be considered to possibly get 1 credit on a college transcript once you transfer. With dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment or taking classes at PCC or any community college, even Glendale Community College, PCC, Pasadena City College, when you take those courses, you get the units right away. There is no having to take a test or anything like that. Those units belong to you and to your student, and they show up on their college transcript once you transfer them or let the institution know that they took college units. If you're dually enrolled, for example, at like a school like Muir, they will show up on the transcript because they're taking classes during the school day, and those, but it would literally, ultimately both show rigor. They both look good on a college transcript. It's just really, sometimes it's a preference for your students. Sometimes students really like, to want to take AP classes, and some are like, I really just want to take a college course. And so really depends on their interests, but they both have weight. Some just have more than others.
Thank you. We just had a question about how do students who are involved in sports participate in the after-school CAP programs?
Great question. I've had an athlete all 4 years. So, the great thing about CAP, especially our after-school program, is drop-in, which means the student can come for 10 minutes or 2 hours. Many of the students that are athletes, they talk to their coach as well as to the CAP counselor or CAP coordinator to say, hey, listen, I really need to, CAP is doing X, Y, and Z. Coach, can I come to practice a little bit late on this particular day? Let's say they want to be involved in one of our workshops. My son was involved in a workshop. He's a baseball player. And so he had to talk to CAP to say, hey, listen, can I leave a few minutes early from the workshop? And hey, coach, can I come a few minutes late? Right? So it's all about teaching our students how to advocate for themselves. I know that coaches as well as CAP coordinators are very flexible in supporting students in their needs, whether it's playing a music instrument. We have kids that are in band, right? So we understand we're there all 4 years. We are a drop-in program, drop-in model. And again, kids can come for 15 minutes or the whole 2 hours.
Thank you. Any other questions? Gosh, we covered so much material.
Thank you, Dr. Malone, for putting the link in for community service. Thank you so much, Dr. Malone. I appreciate that.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
And that should be a part of that binder with all the awards and certificates, also doing, you know, keeping track of your students' hours, and then double checking with the school that those hours get logged in, so that, you know, it's a check mark, it was verified. You don't want an unpleasant surprise. It's only 40 hours for high school graduation, but what I tell students are, hey, we've had students scholarships that have, you know, 100 hours that they recommend, you know, or are requirements. So sometimes you want to go above and beyond, so that you can shine.
All right.
Thank you so much to everyone. Any other questions? And I love that so many are younger parents, parents of younger students, because the sooner you find out, the more time you have to get that strategy plan going.
Yes, definitely. And I think everybody here did sign up on our website already, but if perchance you did not and you want to get the materials, just be sure and drop that email and address into the chat for us. And then we will post and share the recording and all the links to the various resources that we mentioned. All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and good luck with high school. And you know, let us know how it goes. Let us know where you wind up, because you know, Penn is really the N stands for network, and we really try to be a community for the whole district. Parents learn from other parents. And so please stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone.
All righty. Thank you, Wendy and Natasha, for all your work on this. And thank you, Ada.